everyone. Welcome to the F1 Rolling Start podcast.
Hello.
I'm James.
I am Ben. Great to be with you all.
We are excited to talk this week.
We are. Actually, we switched teams.
Yes. I was going to say, we were going to talk about a different team today.
We were. McLaren.
However,
some things have happened.
Guenther got fired. That's what happened.
And if you don't know who Guenther is, then shame on you.
Because most of the world who has no idea
who doesn't care about
anything
F1.
About F1. My wife knows who Guenther Steiner is.
Literally a friend of mine who's a producer on my project on something else. She literally was like, Ben, my sister-in-law loves Guenther Steiner. I need to get her something for Christmas. I need to get her a shirt or something. Like, what do I do? I was like, this is what
100%. You knew exactly what to do.
I knew exactly what to say.
Yes, Guenther, he is I think that's actually probably the best way to sum it up. He is a great ambassador for Formula One. He's
transcendent.
He is one of the reasons why Drive to Survive became so popular is because of his antics and the way that he ran the team Haas. And we are going to talk all things Haas this week.
Yeah, we switched. We're talking Haas. We weren't going to get to them. Can I be honest with our one listener in Canada? We were going to combine episodes and do Haas and another team that we didn't.
100%, because we had nothing up until the point where Guenther got fired to say about Haas and Alfa Romeo.
We're like, how are we going to fill 60 minutes talking about Haas this year? Because in truth, they were not good this year.
No. Now the really problem is that we still have to talk about Alfa Romeo, otherwise we just skip them entirely. Yeah, we might just skip them. But the thing is that
those 3 Alfa Romeo fans in Italy are going to be really upset about that. But
I think there's one. Oh, sorry, not Alfa Romeo. Steak F1. Oh, I forgot the rest
Steak
of the
with
name.
An A, not
steak with a name. Steak
EA.
F1 something.
I don't
or other. There's another team.
It shows how little I care.
Scuderia or something like that. Anyway. Here's the thing. Before we jump into Haas, do us a favor. If you're listening to this, wherever you are listening to it, go ahead and like it, subscribe, share it with a friend. It would mean the world to us. We enjoy doing this and hope that you enjoy listening as well as you keep coming back to it.
This has been a great off-season thing for me personally.
Yes.
Because there's no F1 right now.
No.
There's some drama. There's some stuff happening. But
there wasn't until Guenther, though.
There wasn't.
Really.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
now.
just looking at people in the Alps skiing. And I'm like, I don't want to watch you do this.
I've been, on my one social media platform, LinkedIn, which really isn't social media.
Wait, that's your. Consider that a social platform?
Of course, it's a social platform. There's like 500 million people on it, and they're all posting stuff. It's social. It's a far cry from TikTok.
Sad life.
But TikTok's something else. Anyway, the only thing that I've been seeing is all the teams recapping how great their 2023 was, or how much better they want 2024 to be.
Right.
And that's it. So anyway, this has been nice to just keep this pod going through the off season. Most of our colleagues in this space don't, and good on them for taking a vacation.
Going to take a vacation, but we can't stop talking things F1. And man, did Haas give us something to talk about. Not even a few days into the beginning of the new year, hardly anything going on in the Formula One world. And apparently Guenther Steiner gets a phone call between Christmas and New Year's Day from Gene Haas saying,
a great time to get a phone call.
A great time when absolutely nothing is going on. And says, hey, I know your contract is up and I am not continuing it. We're done.
That's a way of being direct. I mean, and this is something that I think is really interesting. As crappy as that is, I don't think that Gene Haas is wrong. As much as I love Guenther Steiner, as much as I love who he is, the energy he brings to the sport, Gene Haas is like, at the end of the day, it's about performance. At the end of the day, that is the most important thing to me. And so if you're the owner and you care about performance, his words are, I have no interest being 10th anymore. The guy's throwing millions of dollars of his own money into this. And so as absolutely awful as that of a thing as that is, to get a call between Christmas and New Year's, if he's not continuing his contract into 2024, he's got to tell him before 2024.
Yes, true. I I do think that you have some
Post-Christmas.
valid points, Benjamin. I think, obviously Guenther Steiner started this team
The last
10
8
years
years.
ago, last decade.
Yeah,
He's been running F1, and he was the third longest next to Christian Horner and Toto Wolff running team principals in the paddock.
Yeah.
So an impressive stint of time,
Absolutely.
not necessarily an impressive stint of performance. And so obviously
They never had
Formula
a
One,
podium.
as I always say, is a meritocracy. And so if you are not scoring points, you are not supposed to be here. However, I also
You're going to break your one rule?
I'm not going to break my one rule. I'm going to say this. Do I think Gene Haas had every right to hire Guenther? Of course, he owns the team. Do I think he should have? Yes.
Wait, hire or fire?
Fire, sorry.
Fire.
He had every right to fire Guenther. However, I don't think he hired the right person. Gene Haas said, I'm going to promote from within my trackside engineer, AO, and he's going to do it because, you take 6 months to do this and the other. The reality is that if he was serious about winning, he would have said, okay, Guenther, you're out. I'm bringing in Otmar. I'm bringing in Benito. I'm bringing in, maybe not Yas because he didn't really do much with Williams, but at least one of the people. Like, to me, I look at, okay, I don't have a ton of money. I need to go to somebody that knows how to use what resource I have to get podiums. And Otmar Safnar is the guy to do that.
Yeah,
he did that with Force India.
Yeah.
He did that with Aston Martin before they went into new ownership, before, he parted ways.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, he just made the wrong decision. Did he have every right to fire Guenther? Yes. But did he hire the right person? No. And honestly, I don't think Guenther had the ability from a team owner that supported him underneath him to see success. Every year he would say, I need you to give me more money so that our factory can be updated, so that our equipment can be updated. Yeah. Like there were pictures of front wings showing up in like busted panel vans to the Haas place. Like you have private jets flying in every other person's stuff, and you've got like DHL rolling up for like like Haas. Like, it's embarrassing. Like their factory is like decades out of touch, and you've got Williams, you've got Aston Martin, you've got all of these teams that are significantly investing, and you're starting to see results for it. But Gene Haas is like, no, we don't need to do that. We've got all the money we need. We've got all the people we need, but there's still no results. I think Guenther had a hand tied behind his back.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I'm not saying Haas has went out and actually given the team leadership that's going to give them wins, because the leadership is untested. AO is within the team, and he has history, and he understands the team.
Been there for a while, yep.
Which is great, but he's untested at the top spot. And so I agree with you there. I think if he was serious about winning, he'd bring in someone who has that already under the belt. I do think there have been moments where Haas has attracted bigger money.
Yeah,
there have been moments where they brought in Rich Energy. They've brought in sponsorship from Russia. They've brought in money and sponsors. And they still have had a challenge keeping those sponsors. Now, again, and we'll go into a little bit further in detail later on the episode, there's context behind why 100%. Those sponsorships ultimately didn't last. But I think that is the challenge with Haas. And this is so fascinating too. When you are watching an F1 race and you see other teams, you'll see all the sponsors just riddling their uniforms, right? With Haas, it's like MoneyGram,
right,
and
Chipotle,
Haas, and like 3 other things. And it's like, I'm like, oh, they've got really clean uniforms. I'm like,
oh no, wait,
no,
they just
no
don't
one
have
wants
any
to
money.
Sponsor them.
Well, apparently Gene was saying that they're 10 million within the cost cap every year. It's mind-boggling to me.
Stunning to me.
Yeah. So, but that's just to operate within the year. The thing that they always fall is under, oh gosh, what is it called? It's called the CAE, capital.
The capital investment,
something. Like basically, it's this fund that allows them to spend outside of the cost cap, money to improve their facilities and their equipment. And Haas never meets it. They don't. And that's what Guenther was like, this is where we need our investment.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have access. This is why you even see like Red Bull going, hey, we're upgrading our wind tunnel from flipping
World War II
World War II era thing. And they can do it outside of the cost cap. This is why you have Aston Martin opening up flipping brand new state-of-the-art factories.
Yes.
Because they were in dilapidated Force India, like 10-team, 40-decade-old buildings.
Yep.
And they're like, no, I need top of the art for the top of the art sport.
Yep.
And Haas is like, no, we're going to bootstrap it. We're going to bootstrap it. And there's one thing about bootstrapping when you're starting something. There's another thing about running an organization 10 years deep. Bootstrapping that's
you haven't
exhausting.
Upgraded.
It's hard to motivate people. It's hard to inspire them when you're always like, well, we don't have enough.
Yeah. And also environments and ecosystems are really important.
100%.
People want to work in an environment that says, hey, we're going to go win, or we're going to go be competitive. And when their environment that they're working in is dilapidated and is falling apart
and antiquated.
And that doesn't scream we're competitive.
Right.
That screams like we're barely hanging on. Right. And so confidence is such a fickle thing, right?
It's elusive.
It's so elusive. And people are confident in a team for reasons that are really like simple in some respects. Like, you can bring in the private jets and this and that, but like if you've got a great facility, if you have great leadership, if you have the ability to inspire, like that instills confidence in folks. And so I do think on the back end, when you aren't investing in those things, either A, because you can't attract new investment, or B, you don't have the money, or C, you don't think it's important, ultimately all of that plays against the team
100%.
principle. And so so Guenther, in that sense, maybe he had both hands tied behind his back.
Who knows?
Right.
I have a question for you. If the team and the aspect and the way that it rolls is so important, what makes a difference there?
Sorry, say that again.
So if the team, the atmosphere, everything, right? If all of that is against them, what is going to be the one person that's going to be able to make the difference in that situation?
Well, the team principle.
Right.
Yeah, leadership.
Right.
Someone being able to say, we may not have everything we want. There may be other teams that have better. But guess what? We're going to go out there and we're going to fight like hell.
Friends, I give you the new team principle of Haas.
No, I'm serious. The ability,
MoneyGram Motorsports.
The ability to inspire. Because again, this is the 100%. This is the one thing Haas does have going for them. And I think one of the reasons Guenther has been so popular in America specifically, people love the underdog.
They love
Haas has been nothing if not the underdog. They've been one of the underdogs in F1, period. There's other teams that have, but Haas almost has like that section just to themselves. And so people actually are attracted to starting with a team that is fighting against everyone else and being part of their success. And so that was why it was such a big deal when Kevin Magnussen gets pole position in Brazil, even though it's a sprint.
It makes no sense.
It makes no sense. It doesn't mean anything. He literally had to retire in the actual sprint race like a lap in. But it meant something for the team, because when you're pulling together like that, any success is magnified.
100%.
So the team principle is the deciding factor when you don't have the flashy new facility or all the extra money.
And that's where I come back to. And to be honest, I think Guenther has an interesting persona for sure. Everyone loves that about him, but I also think that he is a serious team principal. I think people don't understand that he dropped out of college, went and became a rally engineer. All of a sudden goes from being a rally engineer, works his way up through the teams. He becomes the director of engineering for Ford Racing, working with Colin McRae and Carlos Sainz at the time, now Carlos Sainz Sr.
Unreal.
Like Colin McRae, that's the flipping game we played growing up. Like that's like the blue and gold Subaru WRX. What do you think of? You think of Colin McRae. Like, this is like the most epicness. He gets headhunted by Niki Lauda to go to Jaguar F1 team.
I didn't know that.
Unreal. He has headhunted by Niki Lauda. Like, that's one of the greatest names in F1 ever.
Period.
goes over to gets headhunted to Red Bull. He's working with Christian, only to get booted by the greatest car designer in the world ever.
Yeah.
Who? Adrian Newey.
Of course.
That's why he leaves.
Of course.
Goes and starts Red Bull NASCAR.
Which if you gotta lose to
you gotta lose, Adrian Newey is the guy.
I mean, he's the guy to lose to.
He then goes over, starts Red Bull NASCAR in the US, and then gets flipping scoped by Gene Haas, starts Haas with nothing, just figures out how to do it by buying things out of the Ferrari used bin, comes in first season, shocks everybody, gets points.
6th place in the maiden race.
6th place. That's crazy for
Unreal.
an F1 maiden race.
Literally, everyone was saying this can't be done. A team can't scrap their car together and be competitive.
Well, and they come out of nowhere. This is the first U.S. team in 30 years in 2016. First U.S.-based team in 30 years. They come in and they usurp 2 established teams first season. They finish 8th. Then they come back in 2019. They come back in 2020. And back in 2018, they finish 5th.
Which is stunning.
That's insane. That's middle of the pack.
Especially when you consider this year how competitive things have been in the midfield.
I was just really yelling a lot. I'm sorry.
No, dude.
It's just exciting.
Absolutely deserved it.
That doesn't get half the credit he should.
No, and again, this is the incredible thing about Haas, is that they've had things stacked against them from the beginning because of how they entered into the sport and how much they had to make up for out the gate.
100%.
Which is why they hobbled together a car out of all of these parts from other teams, right? And so when they're able
Which he got guff on. But the guy is scrappy. He's like, no, I got to figure out how to build this car. I don't have time to design all these parts. So I'm going to go and buy as many as I can.
Yeah. I mean, so 2016, they finished 8th. Their first season in.
They boot 2 established European teams.
Unreal. 2017, they finished 8th again. And then 2018 was when, and you were referencing this, was the season where they're 5th and they're literally 93 points. They finished 5th. Unreal. Now there was moments in 2018 that weren't great. Like in Australia, both drivers are kneecapped by their pit crew.
Well, they would have. So Australia's kind of a crazy race because literally, if they had not been literally, I love what you just said, kneecap.
Seriously.
Like something like pulled out a sawed-off shotgun and shot both of them.
Literally.
That would have been their best points finish ever as in a race, period.
Yeah, unreal.
And then in 2018, 5th is where they finished. They could have finished 4th. They also got disqualified. I think it was Austin for a illegal floor. There was another thing that happened that took precious points away from them in that season. But it was nuts the way that they finished like that. So they come in, they do 8th, they then go 8th again, and then they go 5th. Now we're talking true underdog.
Now we're talking
what the heck?
These guys are starting to challenge not just the lower bottom feeding teams, but they're starting to challenge the established teams. Which again,
who are the top 4 teams at this time? So I can tell you.
I want to say it was Mercedes, Red Bull,
because
Ferrari.
During their 8 years of dominance.
Of course.
Red Bull, Ferrari.
And I think it was Renault.
Renault
was ahead of them.
So now you've got Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, Renault, and this team that's 3 years old based out of the U.S. with a car that's stuck together with gum and duct tape.
Wonder
what
Americans were losing their mind. Of course, Americans would love this team.
It was an awesome story.
It was incredible. And then
you got this team principal that literally looks every time he's on the camera like he's flying off the handles. It's this crazy dude born in Italy, but sounds like he's German. He speaks 5 languages,
and he lives in the U.S. But he's
North Carolina.
It's literally he swears so much that the Sky News reporters are constantly apologizing to their listeners because he's swearing, and he's like, "Wait, did I swear?
No, that was one of the best videos ever. If you haven't seen this video,
a swear word.
The reporter says he does this interview. He's like, "How desperate are you for points?" He's like, "Man, I would go and F the whole paddock for points right now." And the the reporter's like, "Hey, I don't know what it's like in America, but you can't say that on television here." He goes, "What did I say?" And the guy's like, "What did you say you do to the whole paddock?" He's like, "I hug the whole paddock." Like literally, his pronunciation in English is
I know,
because
right?
of the 3 different languages he speaks. It's hilarious.
Unreal. But no,
I love him.
But here's the thing: 2018, they're finishing squarely in the midfield, which is why they get new investment with rich energy drinks, right?
Well,
like
theoretically they get promised new investment. They never quite get all of the money they were.
They didn't get all of it. They didn't get all of it.
Some.
They got some, enough to make their car like look new and
cute.
And
honestly,
kind
I
of
like the black and the gold. It looks good.
It did look really good. But then just points were so difficult. Silverstone was the low point. Both drivers collide. There's the infamous scene from Drive to Survive where Magnussen literally like destroys Guenther's door, and he was like going off on him, and it was just a team in crisis at this point. And
it was just a lot of frustration. I think they're coming off of 5th, and then they're going into nowhere.
Yeah, and they literally, their new sponsor pulls out before the season finishes.
Mid-season.
And they dropped to 9th, and they went from 93 points to 28 points.
Yeah. The thing that no one seems to talk about in 2019 is the power plant they had. So Haas was powered by, well, and still is, Ferrari. In 2019, Ferrari was ripping until the team started asking questions about their engine, in which the FIA did an investigation and found out that Ferrari had done a few things that were a little Ferrari, and they
much
weren't
like for
quite
Mercedes.
Okay,
sometimes
and instead of bending the rules, they completely broke the rules. And all of a sudden, but it wasn't released at the time, and all of a sudden, every car that was powered by Ferrari engines, Ferrari, Haas, and Alfa Romeo, all of a sudden, their performance just dropped by like 20%. And that was 2019 and 2020. There was the same engine, same regulations, zero competition. And if you look at Alfa Romeo that year, it finished just right barely above Haas.
Yeah.
And so, yes, they lost all of their momentum from the 3 previous seasons. And 2019 was the start of the doldrums for them. It was the beginning of sails up, no wind in sight.
Yeah, and it got bad.
It got worse.
It got really, really bad, to the point where 2020, it's just off to a bad start.
Bro, they went and got Russian sponsorship. You don't get...
Well, no, wait, so hang on a second. 2021 was the Russian sponsorship. 2020, they still had their drivers. They still had Roman Grosjean. They still had Magnussen.
Oh, right.
But that 2020 was when Grosjean's car on the first lap in Bahrain literally crashes into a barrier and explodes into a fireball.
Yeah, that was insane.
And he's barely
I remember watching
rescued.
that live.
I remember I'm watching as well. Unreal.
Jeez.
Unreal. They score in 9th, and the year before they had scored 9th with 28. This time they score 9th with 3 points.
Yeah, it was...
So it's just 2020 was, they were racing an entire season, and there was nothing.
Because who came 20th? It was Williams.
I think it was Williams.
Yeah, because it was the last year. That was when George was like, "Guys, can I just please come in? I don't want to drive ever again." I think that was the same
rough.
year.
But no, so 2020 was 3 points in 9th, and you'd think they can't go lower. You'd think it's not possible to go lower, but 2021 is the year with the new sponsorship,
DNFs and 0 points.
The new Russian sponsorship, where literally it was just, they had 8 DNFs that year.
Yeah.
8.
Is
literally.
That the year when Mick Schumacher at Monaco split his car into, or is that the next year?
It's still going to get worse. No. 2021, 2021, they literally, watch this at the end of 2020, they get rid of both of their drivers.
Right.
They get rid of Mag Daddy. They get rid of Roman. They're like, we're done. goodbye, Roman. Glad you're still alive, but we're not going to sign next year. And the way they did it too was rough. They did it very late in the year, where both these drivers don't have a chance.
No other seats available.
No, there's no other seats. They didn't tell them at the beginning of the year. It was towards the end of the year, and so that piece of it was really challenging. So 2021, they're like, we're going new. It's a full rebuild. We're bringing in Mick Schumacher. We're bringing in
Nikita Mazepin,
this new Russian driver. We're bringing in new sponsorship. I mean, they were
desperate for money, and they were on the brink of bankruptcy.
They really were.
Not Gene Haas, but the F1 division of Haas.
Absolutely, they were going after, like, they were in Aldi commercials.
Yes,
in Germany, they were trying to go after German money. They were trying to go after Russian money, and
they got the Russian money.
They did.
Nikita Mazepin's dad
is a billionaire.
Ugarali. Yeah, Russia's. For those of you that don't know, if you like to eat vegetables, you can thank Russia, because they are the number one distributor of fertilizer. And so Nikita Mazepin's dad owns a cool company named Uralkali.
Yeah.
And it's fertilizer.
Yeah.
And he was the Russian version of Lance Stroll's dad, except his son can't drive whatsoever. Guenther literally got him a spinning top toy for his birthday and said, spin this instead of your car.
Oh my gosh.
What a
savage.
Legend.
So 2021, they're coming off of a 3-point season. And again, you can't think it can get any worse. And they go and they end in 10th and they have 0 points.
Yeah. It gets worse.
And then 2022.
Life lesson, friends. It can always get worse.
That's tough.
That's true.
It's really tough.
That's true.
Like, you hope that there's like, it's going to get better. And then you're like, well, maybe this is better.
Yeah.
Like maybe
my worst is my better. I don't know.
The worst now
this
is actually
what
better.
I was designed to be. I don't know.
But no, but 2022 is the year where Schumacher cuts the car in half at Monaco.
Yes. That was wild.
Yeah. Also, it can't get worse. They lose their new Russian sponsor because, I don't know, Russia invades Ukraine. And now,
which we're not touching.
They lose their new Russian money and their Russian driver, because
they didn't lose the Russian money. The Russian money got sanctioned. They lost the driver. He got deported.
The money's no longer in their bank account. Let's just say that much, right? So literally, Mag Daddy, as I like to call
Mag Dad,
returns. And this
triumphant return.
This is one of the highlights. He finishes 5th in his season opener.
Just rips. Gets points for the team.
God,
Did you see that, Gene?
Maybe that was the underdog moment of glory that we just wanted them to achieve as an entire team. But maybe that was it.
Yeah.
Maybe that was it.
Here's the thing, though. Do you think... Okay, so let's just talk Mick Schumacher for a second. Obviously, he kept his seat because he outshined Nikita in the other Haas.
Yeah.
But did a poor job. So no one really knew how to compare the Haas as a car. But as a driver, he outdrove his competitor.
He did, and also his dad's last name is Schumacher.
Yes, which gives you some extra clout. Comes in, loses his seat to Magnussen. Well, loses his seat alongside of Magnussen, I should say.
Alongside of Magnussen.
Do we feel like that is a reflection of Mick, or do we feel like if Mick was in a good car, he could perform? Because he's now the reserve driver for Mercedes.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
which means something, but not a lot.
Well, I think...
Does he... Toto Wolff thinks he deserves an F1 seat. Do we?
Having the last name Schumacher would be a hard thing. If
1,000%.
If Hamilton ever has a kid
who's
into racing, having the last name Hamilton, having the last name Verstappen, although Max,
it was hard, and now it's even harder.
Yeah, Max is my parents are both racers. I'm just gonna go and up the ante, but that's I think one of the things I would say is when you're already on a knife's edge as a race driver and you're trying to find every sliver of mental strength, having to also overcome something like that would make it even more difficult, and it would amplify every failure exponentially. So I think Schumacher, yes, he DNF'd. Yes, he cut his car in half. Yes, he crashed out. Yes, he cost Haas millions of dollars.
Much money.
He really did. Yes, he did all those things. If his last name wasn't Schumacher, would he still be around? I don't know. It took him a couple seasons to get his first point. He got his first point at Silverstone. It wasn't enough to save him. It wasn't enough to keep him in.
Because he kept crashing the car.
He just kept crashing the car. And with a team like Haas, who has no money to begin with, you can't crash the car.
No.
Which is why, like, and this is, I'm going to go back to Guenther for a second. Guenther made the decision to get rid of his 2 experienced drivers and go with 2 rookies.
Correct.
If that didn't gloriously backfire, I don't know what a glorious backfire would look like. It just did.
But did he make that decision alone? No. He had Gene with him, and the reason why they made that decision is because Kevin and Romain Grosjean at the time were not bringing any money into the team. So he went with a young German driver who has the last name Schumacher.
Yes.
And brought along Aldi.
Yeah.
And he went with a young Russian man who brought along his oligarchy billionaire dad.
He went after the money.
And that backfired on him.
And that's what backfired. Because both those guys brought in money, but neither of them had the talent.
But they're the only choices that he had.
Yeah. I realize
it was either that or shut the doors.
Yeah, I realize even as I'm saying that, like, obviously you're in an F1 car.
Yes.
You've got some talent.
Yes. 100%.
Neither of us.
100. I don't even think I would be able to. I don't think I'd be able to get it out of the pits.
No.
I don't think I'd be able to not stall.
No, I would. It's too much power for me.
Yeah.
It's too much power.
I don't know about that. I'd give it a try.
But no, I mean, so obviously the racing in F1, you have to be talented to get that car around the track. But I think that was a blunder. It backfired. And that's why he brings back in veteran drivers who have no money, really, right? Mag's not really bringing money.
No.
Hulk, is he bringing money? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe a little.
Maybe.
But not, no. He's bringing in, well, the thing is that he's got the money now.
Well, now.
They have the money now, so he needed good drivers again. Yeah. Because now their team, after the Alpine investment last year, their team got evaluated just under 800, estimated to be about under $800 million, which for an F1 team that was bought for $1 is pretty good on Gene Haas's part.
Unreal.
So I don't think he actually bought it for $1, but very, very low amount that Haas got in there. And so, but you have to get to that point, and I think Guenther had to make a few decisions and, cut a couple corners and realize a few things to get to that point. And he was never truly. And now he's at a point where he's like, okay, we need to invest in our infrastructure. And Gene's like, no. I'm not giving you any more money. The last time I did that, it was an $8 million upgrade in Austin, and one of your drivers didn't take it, and he finished higher than the other one.
Yeah. This is a question that I want to ask you. And this is, I think, the age-old question in sports. Does talent follow the money, or does money follow the talent? And I'll throw out a couple examples as you're pondering. New York Yankees. God, I hated those guys.
Right.
Because they'd always beat my baseball team. Right. There's moments where we beat them. But they're always known for just throwing millions of dollars at their players. Yeah. But then you've got small market teams like Cleveland's baseball team, who has no money, but they're able to develop talent. And at times they're able to actually make really deep runs to the World Series even.
Yep.
So in F1, like, do you think that one trumps the other, or one is more important than the other?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Ben. I think for me, I think the hard part is that I think it's tiered within the top and lower teams. because you get to a level like Mercedes and Red Bull, and they're kind of like, wow, what can you really bring me?
Yeah.
I am Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like Christian Horner's like, dude, what are you going to do for me?
Yeah.
Toto Wolff's like, what are you going to do for me?
He's like, listen, I own Mercedes.
Right. He's like, I don't 33%. And so it's like, I don't know at that level. Haas, even Alpine, all of those teams, they're like, we need the money.
Yeah.
You know, that one of the reasons why Otmar Safnar has been so successful is because BWT, the pink cars, him and that company are like this. Anywhere he goes.
What is BWT?
It's a water company.
I literally was like, wait,
yes!
This is
it's water.
I think I like saw that. I was like
H2O.
I was like, what are these guys doing?
Yes. And they're pink. That's their branding is pink. I don't know if you've wondered.
No, it's very clear.
Very clear.
Very clear.
And so when he was running Force India,
yeah,
what color were those cars?
They were hot.
They were hot flipping pink.
They were hot Barbie pink.
Hot Barbie pink. When he went to Alpine, what color did those cars run a couple times? Pink. Other than that, what color did they ever across the entire side punch? BWP, bright pink. He brought the money. When he was at Aston Martin, when he was all of it.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So yes, money comes along, but I think it's in the lower tiers. I think you get to the level of like Verstappen, anyone, he could sneeze and someone would give $1 million if they could attach Nike to it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but he also gets paid. What did he make? Like $75 million last year? Not for Red Bull, but altogether.
From
like,
everything else. Well, I think this is part of it too. Is money follows. I believe money follows passion and talent. So when you can prove yourself, when you can show up and show off and do it consistently over time, money's gonna follow you. Yeah. Right. And so like you can't. Here's the thing. So let's go to Schumacher and to Mazepin. It didn't matter how much you paid those guys. I don't believe they would actually bring in points. Like it's just not.
See, I don't agree with you on that. I think Nick, maybe Mazepin, but I don't know. I think you bring a young kid who was winning the Formula races all the way up through until Formula One, and then you put him in a Haas. You lose confidence. We saw it with Danny Rick in McLaren. It was the wrong car.
Yeah, you did.
Next thing you know, he comes out in a Red Bull and he's within what?
A tenth
of Verstappen's quali time. Yeah. So I think there is something to do with man and machine that we've talked about.
We have, yeah.
And I think there's a level of that. I do think there's a fine margin and it's really hard. And the reality is that if you're good enough, the cards will go in your favor.
And I think that's where the balance of all of this is so complex and fragile. It has to be the right driver with the right skill set and talent. It has to be the right car for that driver. There has to be enough money for all the back end pieces we were talking about that have been missing at Haas. And all of that stuff has to align so that the driver can actually show what they can do when given the right car. Yep. And so, I mean, I think that talent and money, like it is a complex relationship between the two, and they both have to coexist.
Yep, 100%.
Like they both have to work together. And I think with Haas, what you were seeing year after year is you would see new money come in. I'm not privy to how much or what it was funding, or if there was infrastructure pieces.
MoneyGram is a big sponsor for them. Chipotle is a big sponsor for them. 100%. There's interest in them being successful. The reality, let me ask you this question, Ben.
Yes.
Let's say last season, their drivers were Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Where do you think Haas would have ended?
Well, let me throw this out there. We've seen Alonso struggle with teams for years.
Correct.
So, and then you see him go to Aston and he's getting podiums, right? So maybe they would have finished higher. I don't know, because we've seen champions who've picked the wrong team and they can't land a podium to save their life.
It's happened with Danny Rick when he went to McLaren, when he was at Renault. There is a balance between the driver, the car, and the team that needs to happen, but there's also just it has to be a good car.
Yeah.
Like as much guff as we give Valtteri Bottas, the dude, historically speaking, is an excellent Formula One driver.
Where would you rate him right now with the field that we have?
Drivers as a whole,
just pure talent.
Great question.
Talent.
Great question.
Car is out the window. It's just the man.
Yeah. So let's just go through the top. Obviously, number one is Lewis Hamilton. There's zero question there. Number two is Max Verstappen. Zero question there.
I have
you
absolute issues.
What are you talking about? There is
it's no Max issues. Clearly number one.
It is Lewis.
Lewis is Max. Maybe 3 or 4.
Oh my gosh. We just talked about not peeking the microphones. I guarantee you the way I just said 3, peeked the microphone. You're out of your mind. It's Lewis. There's no arguing about it.
I'll say
then
Lando.
There's Max.
Maybe second, and then Lewis is third.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say, honestly, he would fall, Valtteri for me, he would fall somewhere in 5th or 6th best. Nah, probably 7th or 8th.
Yeah, because again,
he would be after Russell, he'd be after Carlos, he'd be after Lando, he'd be after Alonso, he'd be after Max and Lewis. That's how I would rank.
Yeah, we've got Charles as well. Charles is solid.
Yeah, Charles is solid. You're right.
Yeah,
he's top 10 for sure.
Top 10
for sure.
Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, and this is where it gets
what did they do last season?
God,
we don't even want to talk about it.
We don't. We still haven't. Because it's just we don't want to. Yeah. So I mean, I think one of the large narratives. There's a couple narratives with Haas. One is the money.
Yep.
That's a big one.
Yep.
One has been the drivers.
Correct.
That's another big one. They went from having drivers with experience to flipping it to drivers who could bring in money.
Rookie calendar.
Straight up rookie to just bottoming out with those to bringing back veteran drivers.
Yep.
And then also I think, the other piece is just the leadership, which is what we started this episode talking about, is you have Haas and you've got Guenther. And these two guys have had this relationship really for 10 years.
Yep.
Last decade. And they have led this team. They have experienced some moments of success, but as far as success goes, they haven't cracked the podium places.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been able to do it.
No. Let me ask you this question, Ben. What is Haas without Steiner?
We don't know. Because there isn't and hasn't been a Haas without Steiner. There's only been Guenther Steiner as the lead of Haas. So who knows what Haas is?
They're not giving us any points.
I feel like they fall into further obscurity without him. I feel like they fall into a dangerous place potentially without him.
To me, he was an anchor.
Yes.
He was a form of notability.
Absolutely.
He was a place where people could go, oh, that team has an identity.
Yeah.
It is him. He
was more famous than their drivers.
Correct. And I'm kind of like, and now they have AO coming in. My next question is this dude set up for, like, what do we see from Haas F1 MoneyGram under AO's leadership? Not that he's not a talented person.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the guy's getting the worst team on the grid right now. And he is obscure.
Yeah.
And now his team has fallen, to your point, into further obscurity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll say this. He has an opportunity and a great challenge in front of him.
To really wow the world if something happens this season.
So if he is able to bring them up, that man is securing a place for himself in F1.
History.
If
oh my God.
If he can't, then none of us would blame him.
No.
So
Set up for six.
He honestly, and this sounds really weird, but he's kind of playing with house money. He can't really lose.
Yeah.
Because they've already lost. So at this point, you're already at the bottom. You're already at the back of the pack. You can't lose. You can only go forward. So he'll look like a genius if they go to 8th this next year. He'll look like a freaking magician if he can take him to 7th. It's not going to happen.
7th?
No, I'm saying it's not going to happen because you know why? They brought their next car, the 2024 car, to Austin. And the man who had that upgrade finished in 14th. So it's not going to happen.
Oh, Haas.
The
pain continues.
We saw behind the curtain and we're disappointed. So
I revert to my earlier comment when I said it can always get worse. Life can always get worse.
Okay, now here's a crazy thought. We're talking about it getting worse. There is some speculation when we think about next year. There's rumors that Haas may be positioning to sell to Andretti.
Okay, there's mad rumors, but Gene also said, I didn't get into this sport to sell.
Well,
that
he
was
didn't
also
get in
before his team was evaluated at $800 million.
Well, he also didn't get in to place 10th, but here we are.
Right.
So we all,
very true.
Don't get into things. But then the future presents itself to us, and we're stuck with it. So honestly, Andretti's trying to get in.
Oh,
it's way easier.
It's
way easier to buy a team and just reshape that team.
Interesting.
So that's out there, and it's a significant conversation.
And it would bring the money with it. Andretti is a number one. It's a name that is a Formula One world champion. On top of that, they are significant players in IndyCar in America, bring along a large fan base with them as well, which would be another injection of the US-based interest into Formula One, which would be something so exciting.
And maybe that's the underdog story of Haas.
Is that they opened the door for Andretti. Maybe it becomes Andretti Haas. Doubtful Andretti would keep Haas, but okay, so let me ask you this. Okay, let's flip Andretti for a moment.
Yeah.
Because we don't need to get into I don't even know how I feel about the fact that Cadillac is trying to come into Formula One. Exactly.
Get that mess out of here.
Cadillac out of here. Ford was formidable for years in Formula One. It's gone. I mean, it's coming back for Red Bull, so have fun with that in 2026.
I don't know how I feel about that right now either.
But anyway, Cadillac out of here. Okay, Haas. We've talked about Guenther. We've talked about the team. We've talked about Gene. We've talked about the drivers. Let's talk about the drivers a little bit more.
Yeah.
Here's my last question for you.
Yes.
You're Hulkenberg.
Hulk.
The Hulkmeister.
Nico Hulkenberg. Hulkman and Mag Daddy.
Okay, so Hulkenberg comes in first season. Magnussen has half a season in the car. Last season, taking over. He's got grit in with Haas already years before that, knows the team, comes in. Mag scores 3 points in the 2023 Formula One season. Hulkenberg comes in, scores 9 points, out-qualifies Magnussen 8-3.
Yep.
Now, one of Magnussen's was a pole, so let's give him that.
Yeah.
What do you do if you're Hulkenberg and you realize that the super sub came into a team and now you're also clearly the dominant driver on this team?
Yeah.
What are you looking for other? We're going into a season where almost half the grid
over half the grid. Yes.
Right. So 11 drivers are going to be up for grabs. 11 or 12, I can't remember. But Hulkenberg is one of those. Will he go to another team if another team comes calling?
Yeah.
I have thoughts about what team.
I think that's a great question because, again, Kevin Magnussen has been on this team. He's the veteran here.
Exactly.
Hulk comes in and freaking rips this year. And again, he was trying to take that car to a place it couldn't go. If he had a car that could go where his skill set was, who knows where he would have finished? Because, yeah, he finishes 16th with 9 points. Magnussen, the Haas veteran, finished with 3 points at 19th. That's a phenomenal feat for Hülkenberg coming in. So I think that's a fantastic question. And yes, I think if he can show out on that car during a season where over half the grid's contracts are up for renewal, I absolutely think he's positioning himself like George Russell did for a better team. George Russell was racing for Williams. He was driving the pants off that car. The car was trashed. He couldn't get it to where he was. He was outperforming the car. And Mercedes is like, oh, yeah, we'll have you.
Yeah,
Come on.
We'll take you.
Bottas, we love you. Goodbye. So I think Hulk's the same way. If he can continue to show up, if he can continue to perform at a high level when it comes to qualifying, again, went into Q3 8 times.
Yep.
Like you said, Magnussen was in there 3 times. So I absolutely think that he's gunning for a seat somewhere else, and he deserves it. If Haas can't get themselves together.
Well, here's the thing too. Do you keep him? Do you keep Magnussen as Haas? Because Magnussen made $5 million last year. Pretty awesome.
Good for him.
Hülkenberg
and he
made
scored
2.
3 points.
Hülkenberg made 2.
And he scored 9 points.
Right. Albon made 3 at Williams. Okay, so my theory is this. Williams, if we get to the middle of the 2024 season and Williams has made the leap forward that I am desperately hoping they make.
Can I just quickly throw this in there? Alex Albon scored 27 points.
Exactly.
And he made $3 million less than Kevin Magnussen, who
$2 million less than Magnussen. But yes.
Yeah, sorry. What was it?
He made 3, Magnussen made 5. But here's the thing. I'm looking at Williams, and I'm looking at Hülkenberg, whose days are numbered. Hülkenberg's one of the oldest on the grid.
Hasn't had a podium.
Was so close.
He was so close in Australia.
So close. And the reality is that he's got to be looking like, okay, so if Haas this year is it's in turmoil. Let's call 2024 a wash. It is going to be so unlikely
it's a wash.
That AO is going to come in and we're going to be seeing Haas podiums and points and all this kind of stuff.
If he does, nuts. We will have his face on our
100%.
T-shirts.
100%. We will buy T-shirts. We will make them ourselves. I will wear them for every episode. If Haas gets points in the first 3 races next season,
okay,
I will make a T-shirt with his face and I will wear it for every episode. Okay, but that's not going to happen. So I don't have to worry about that or waste my money on it.
It's not.
But the reality is that I think Hülkenberg would look at a team like Williams and say, I'd much rather take a risk and make 2 or 3 million or the same amount at a team like Williams that is clearly investing in its future. James Vowles at the helm, who's a freaking legend.
He's a god.
I'm like, this next season, I feel like he's going to go from Haas to a different team.
And Williams still has a lopsided driver pairing.
100%. You've
more
got Alex
so
Albon,
than
who's
Haas.
Incredible.
Alex Albon's incredible. Logan Sargent. Just listen for this for a second. Alex Albon's in 13th with 27 points. Logan Sargent is in 21st with 1.
Mm-hmm.
There's a 26-point gap between those two in a area of the driver lineup where it is impossible to get points.
Yeah, exactly.
Impossible to get points. So there is a massive gap here in the gap between Logan and Alex. And so, yeah, I think as far as just sheer competitors, Hulk makes so much more sense at a team like Williams than he does at Haas. And as much as I hate to say this, Logan makes a lot more sense at a team like Haas than he does at Williams. Because Williams can score points.
Logan makes a lot more sense in F2.
That man can't score points, period. So put someone in Williams who can score points, like Hulk.
Yeah.
Because the man's shown that he can take a car that deserves to be on a scrap heap somewhere in North Carolina and actually race with
100%.
it, right? So yeah, I think that's a great question, and I do think that Hulk deserves a chance to get that podium.
I think he deserves a chance, man. He's been through half the grid on teams at this point in time, and I think he has proven himself as a phenomenal driver.
Yeah.
The hard thing about what we see from him is that he's reaching the end of his career.
He is.
And so he's got time. It's not like a Fernando or a Hamilton who has world titles to like rest on in their older age. He has
and can come back. They can boomerang back if they want.
100%. He has a long history of racing a lot and not winning, not getting podiums.
And yet he's still here, which
because he's a good driver,
which in and of itself speaks to his talent,
100%.
Speaks to his presence in this sport. The fact that you can have raced as long as he's raced, not achieved a podium, and still have a seat.
Very true.
That's incredible. So yeah, I would, unless Haas can, by sheer magic, transform themselves and, I don't know, like steal the RB19 from Red Bull and make that their car, they're not going to score points next year. They're not going to be competitive next year. And I think Hulk deserves a chance to be competitive. Magnussen does too. But again, he scored 3 points this year. So it's like, yeah, I mean, you're not really making a case for yourself when you can only score 3 points. When Liam Lawson has scored 2 behind you.
In an AlphaTauri, it was crap. Yeah, it's not. So it's not good. It's not good. No. It'll be interesting to see what happens in silly season for sure next year when all the contracts are up and we move into it.
Where do you think Haas ends as a team next year? What place?
10th.
Yeah.
I don't.
Sadly, I think you're right.
I don't see any way around it. Gene Haas had made a comment in regards to the reason why he promoted from within, because in his other business ventures, which he's a very successful businessman.
Yeah.
He has brought in exterior leadership. It takes 6 months to a year to get them ramped up and to get them into it. And so he just prefers to promote within. You know exactly what you're getting and you can move towards your goal quicker. And in my head, I'm like,
yeah,
I just don't know if we don't know if AO has what it takes to take that team from 10th, being under the leadership of a single person for a decade, has effects on an organization.
Absolutely.
Has effects on the way that people approach their work and the way that they go after things. And so, it's one thing to go. I'm sure he's a great leader. It's one thing to go from leading your department to leading the entire team and all of its complexities.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure. Now, they could get some luck because Alpine is still floundering out there without a team principal. You've got Stake F1 Team, Sauber, who, they haven't had their feet together for the last 3 seasons either. Yeah, and so there's potential.
There's a possibility. But
it looks like AlphaTauri has leapfrogged their way. It looks like they're going to come out this next year, named whatever their name, the Raging Bulls or whatever.
It wouldn't surprise me if they go for 5th.
I would exactly.
If they pull Haas in 2018,
they've pulled themselves together. I think Williams has significantly made some strides. Alpine is going to have to fight to hold that position that they finished in the season.
Yeah.
I think what we'll see the top 3 teams. We'll see Mercedes, Red Bull, and we'll see Ferrari scrapping it out.
Yeah.
We'll see McLaren and Aston in that mix as well. And then what you'll see is Alpine, AlphaTauri, and you'll see most likely I think I'll lift it. I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
And then you'll see the bottom 3 just chilling.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, again, the expectations are real low for AO for next year. So I think like that is a benefit to him. That is a gift to him
Yeah.
is that he has the ability to come into a team that at this point it has gotten worse over the years. You can't really envision a scenario in which it does get worse. So I do think he has the ability to lift the team up. I'm interested to see if that happens. But yeah, I think 10th, they're in 10th again.
Yeah.
And I do think that the potential scenario that you outlifted or outlined as far as Hulk going somewhere else, I think that's very real.
100%.
I think it's absolutely very real. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what next year looks like for him.
And you have the one thing that you have to realize about Formula One in general is that the seasons are quick, but development takes a while.
Yeah, a very long time.
And so that's one of the things that Otmar was talking about when he went to Alpine is he had a 5-year plan to get to becoming a race winners. 5 years. Because it takes time to recruit the talent, to identify them, to recruit them, for them to then be available and out of their contracts, for them to then be out of their non-competes and available to join your team, to go through gardening leave and all of those things. Like there's a complicated things. Gone are the days where you just snake people and turn on a dime and next thing you know, you're like going. Gone are the days of like the 70s when the Lotus came out and they had little things where they could drop and they did ground effects for the first time, and Andretti just would decimate. They just completely decimated. Like those things don't happen anymore. F1 has actually moved slower than people realized. And so that's why when you see like a team principal, it would be to AO's benefit if they got 9th at the best next year. Because it gives him time to just get into the flow of being a team principal.
Because
it's nuts what he's going to have to deal with next year. This year.
It's crazy. And I think, I'm really interested to see what a Steiner-less Haas is. Who steps up as the leader? Like, obviously AO is, but does the light shine more brightly on the drivers? Does their personality, their energy become more prominent? Because Guenther he's a demigod of the sport at this point. The only two team principals who have outlasted him are Christian Horner, are Toto Wolff at the very top.
Correct.
He's got that longevity. And so like, I that's something that I fear the black hole, the vacuum that Haas is going to bring unless someone comes in, and maybe it's AO, into that space with a new vision, a new energy, a new presence. And maybe it's Hulk.
I don't know, man.
Maybe it's Hulk. Who knows?
Look, to be honest, I've been thinking about this. Best case scenario, AO comes in, Gene was right. The team starts going steady up and to the right. Best case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
Worst case scenario, the team loses its mascot. The only thing that's keeping it in people's minds and thoughts was one man, and his name was Mr. Steiner. Now he's gone, and the team plunges into the depths of, I don't care about you, because I actually don't want to hear what he has to say and who he is, AO. I don't know who he is. I don't necessarily care to know who he is. And he's nowhere near as funny or as entertaining. And at the end of the day, what Haas needs the most is money. Money, 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 money.
They do.
Money talks. And so it's you lose your notable thing and you lose your sponsor. Everyone's talking about the fact that like Haas hasn't upgraded their hospitality in the paddock, and it's just embarrassing the way that it looks in comparison to everybody, which we think is so stupid. But at the end of the day, that's where you bring potential sponsors to come and sit down and hang out with you. And it's some dilapidated, chipped up, gross place that no one wants to be, where you've got like the Red Bull area, which is like the land of milk and honey flowing with Red Bull fountains and flipping
it's all like
you can eat buffets, crab
Austrian
everywhere.
wood.
Yeah, exactly. Bulls flying down, projections of like who knows, what's going on.
Unreal.
And so, I just don't see it turning in their direction. I want to be proved wrong. Like I said, first U.S.-based team since 2000. In 2016, when they landed, the first U.S.-based team in 30 years.
Yeah.
That is something incredible.
They've had an uphill climb to this point, and they find themselves once again in that same place of having to climb a very steep hill. So we're here for it. Neither
of us are invested in the team. So we're going to watch trepidatiously from the sidelines as we fist fight over who's going to really win, Hamilton or Verstappen this year. As you know, the articles are out. The Mercedes car finally feels like a Mercedes car again, which is exciting. I hope you have fear and trembling.
I have
shaking through your body right now.
I have none of it.
Oh my gosh. It's going to be an incredible 2024 season. Next week, we are recapping McLaren. We're going to
go back to
I'm going to wear my t-shirt.
Unless something insane happens.
Which it could.
Which who knows? But yeah, McLaren. I'm excited to talk McLaren.
Yeah. And then we have some of the teams launching their cars and liveries coming up, which we will be giving some our notes and feedback on as well. Very excited about it. Don't forget to subscribe to the F1 Rolling Start podcast. I'm James.
I'm Ben.
Thanks for joining us, folks.